Ryan, you're not leaving yet? I look up from my desktop and saw my colleague Ayasa packing up. What time is it? I blurted as I glanced at my watch. It was 8 p.m. You go ahead first, I said with a sigh. I still have something to finish up. All right, she replied with a hint of worry in her tone, but try not to stay back too late. I heard there's been cases where people are getting robbed around here at night. Don't worry, have you forgotten that I know Judo? I smiled proudly. I also let out a chuckle while shaking her head. But still, she continued, be careful on your way back. I will. I gave her a reassuring nod and waved her off. See you tomorrow. After I also left, I was so focused on my work that I completely lost track of time. By the time I finished, I noticed that it was already pretty dark outside. I should get going. I quickly saved my work and shut down my desktop as I packed up. As I was leaving, I realized that I was the only one left on this floor. There were no signs of any other people, and the majority of the lights were already switched off. It felt pretty eerie being alone here after work hours. The lift stopped operating, so I needed to use the emergency stairs to exit. After switching off the remaining lights, I was unconsciously running down the stairs with my phone's flashlight as the only light source. I was completely out of breath when I reached the ground floor, hunching over with my hands on my knees for support by the entrance. I made it out, alive, I muttered under my breath. I took a deep breath to calm myself down, only to be welcomed by the smell of cigarettes. I snapped my head toward the direction of the smell and was met with a tall figure leaning against the wall beside the entrance. Even though it was pretty dark outside, I could still make up the outline of the person's hair, face, and features. It was Suna, a colleague from the finance department. We weren't on the same floor and barely ran into each other. I've only ever talked to him once when I had problems claiming my receipts. My eyes landed on his as he blew out the smoke from his cigarette butt. He was side-eyeing me with a deadpan face. Great, he's definitely judging me. Honestly, I don't think anyone could tell what he was really thinking about. He literally wears a blank expression all the time. I quickly straightened my back to regain my posture, turning away to leave as if I didn't just get caught running down the flight of stairs. I could still feel his eyes on me. Well, I might just be paranoid. As I walked out the gates, that's when I realized my phone's flashlight was still on. Cursing under my breath, I frantically switched it off and picked up my pace, wanting to disappear from his sight as soon as possible. Wow, that is so embarrassing. I probably look like an idiot now. The walk to my car was about several blocks away from my office, where there's a free, open space for workers in the area to park. It feels nice and relaxing to be alone after a long day at work. Looking up to the night sky, I noticed how bright and round the moon was today, with a visible handful of stars shining not too far from it. I took out my phone to take a picture and proceeded putting in my AirPods to listen to some music. After putting on one side, Ayasa's words earlier suddenly replayed in my head. I heard there's been cases where people are getting robbed around here at night. Feeling slight paranoia, I quickly scanned my surroundings. No suspicious cars or people around. Shrugging the thoughts off, I proceeded to put on the other side. I hummed softly to the music and enjoyed the faint rustling sounds of the fallen leaves as I walked on them. About 2 songs in, I started to hear more leaves rustle in the background, though still pretty subtle. It was almost as if someone else was walking not far behind me. Okay, calm down, it might just actually be an animal or something. However, feeling my adrenaline rise up, I hesitantly peeked over my shoulders slightly, and from the very corner of my eyes, I could see a silhouette of a person. I snapped my head back to the front. My thoughts were running wild. My initial instincts were screaming at me to run, but what if it's just a normal person? Someone who's just got off work like me around this area as well. I might be overthinking again. Or not. The car park was only a block or so away from me, and there will be a security guard on duty. If I run now, I might be able to. All of a sudden, I felt a hand on my shoulder, causing me to let out a yelp. My judo reflexes kicked in an instant as I grabbed the person's arm and spinned around to place my back against them, then throwing them over my shoulders with all my might. The person fell to the ground on their back with a loud thud and groaned in pain. I caught the culprit's face and instantly froze when I realized who I had just tossed over. It was the finance guy from earlier. My eyes widened in shock just as much as he did. I quickly took out my pods and shoved them into my pockets. Shit, I blurted. I'm sorry, I thought you were some suspicious person following me. Technically. He managed to breathe out while clutching onto his arm and looked over his shoulders. There is someone suspicious following you. I was puzzled at first, but followed the direction of his eyes anyway. About a block away from us stood a suspicious figure in all black with their hood on, lingering behind a tree. The person must have saw that we noticed, and he started walking away hurriedly. Suna carefully stood back up and dusted the dirt off his back. Sorry for suddenly approaching you. He spoke in a monotone as we started walking side by side. I called out to you a few times, but you didn't respond. His build towered over me, even though he was slouching a little. Oh, sorry, I had on my earphones. I muttered, still feeling a little flustered from what just happened. I should be the one apologizing for what I did instead. It's fine. He turned to me and let out a dry chuckle. That was one hell of a toss. I think my breath hitched for a moment when our eyes met. His narrowed eyes glistened under the moonlight. They seemed like a mixture of gray and yellow, almost olive and alluring. He reminded me of a sand fox. I really am sorry for tossing you over. I have a black belt in Judo, I said hesitantly while looking away. I didn't really like people knowing that I know Judo, especially with guys. I've been on a few dates before, and for some reason, they always tend to lose interest when they find that out. I came to the conclusion that they're just not attracted to those who can protect and look after themselves. Yeah, I figured. He spoke. That's pretty cool. Cool? That's a first. Thanks, I guess. I replied after a long pause, not entirely sure how I should have responded to that. It's admirable that you can defend yourself in that situation, he casually stated as he looked up to the sky, seemingly admiring the moon. You should be proud of that. I blinked at him, taken aback as I did not expect that coming from him at all. Thank you, I muttered and looked straight ahead, feeling my face burning up a little for saying that. I'm praying that the darkness was able to hide my flushed cheeks. Just stating facts. He shrugged. The rest of the walk to the car park was in silence. Neither of us uttered anything. Hey, wait! I called out to him before he walked away to his car. I quickly unlocked my car and rummaged through the front compartment, looking for the repair gel that I always use for my bruises from Judo. He looked a little surprised when I handed him the tube. This is good for relieving bruises, I told him, and laughed nervously. In case you wake up with one tomorrow. Thanks, he simply said while looking down at the tube in his hand. Thanks for walking with me too, Suna. I froze upon realizing that I said out his name. He turned his attention to me with a seemingly questioned gaze. Crap, we barely even know each other. Why am I acting like I know him personally? Oh, I saw your name on the extension phone list when I was looking for someone in finance. I blurted. You probably don't remember, but I had some problems with my receipts last year. He said nothing and continued staring at me. I'm not a creep or anything, I swear. His lips curved up ever so slightly, stifling a laugh. I stood there, dumbfounded. Why are you laughing? I asked hesitantly. Your reactions are rather amusing. He was back to his usual deadpan expression, with slightly raised eyebrows. At this point, I was beyond flustered. We should get going. He broke the silence. See you around, Ryan. Wait, he knows my name too? Don't worry, I'm not a creep either. His voice trailed off as he walked away to his car while tossing the tube of gel in one of his hands. You're not the only one with that extension list. Once again, I was left dumbfounded.